Good evening, Chicago, and welcome back to Little C TV. I'm your host, Lisa Reyes, and we're delighted that you've joined us to continue our open dialogue about autism here in the city of Chicago. As you know, April is Autism Awareness Month, and we're pleased that we can continue this important dialogue about autism spectrum disorder. So tonight, I encourage you to call in. I encourage you to share your story, and let's help rid the stigma surrounding autism and openly talk about how we can better serve our community and our kids and families affected by it. And a spectacular guest to help continue this open dialogue is Ms. Suzy Kogen Friedman. Ms. Suzy Kogen Friedman is the partner and co-director of SOFT, the first line of inclusive clothing designed with the needs of all children in mind, including those with autism, sensory processing disorder, ADHD, and tactile defensiveness sensitivity. Ms. Suzy Kogen Friedman is an entrepreneur, mother, and a lifelong advocate for people with developmental disabilities. Both her brother and sister-in-law have developmental delays, and their 9-year-old son Timmy was diagnosed with autism and global developmental delays at the age of 3. Suzy brings a strong business background to SOFT, having worked in the real estate development and construction industry since 1987. And in addition to her work with SOFT, she is president of KZF Development, Inc., a family-run business specializing in the development and construction of multifamily and semi-custom home developments, as well as office condominium developments. Suzy, thank you so much for joining us
Thank you for having me.
So Suzy, why don't you tell us in your own words your story, your inspiration, and how SOFT was conceived?
Well, my personal inspiration for SOFT really is from my nephew, Timmy Kogen, who you mentioned in the intro. When Timmy was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with severe autism, and it wasn't until that time that my eyes were open to autism. I had heard about it because it's been in the news so much, but I never had any personal experience with it. And through his experience and his struggles, his daily struggles, I was exposed to the world of autism and what a broad spectrum disorder it is. One of the things that I started to notice very early on with Timmy was his sensory sensitivity, which is a hallmark of autism. It isn't, you don't have to have autism to have sensory sensitivity. That's a standalone disorder, but most people that are autistic have tactile defensiveness or sensory disorder. And one of the things that was happening with Timmy is that he was so uncomfortable in his clothing, he was constantly taking his clothes off. He was taking his clothes off at school. As soon as he would get home, he was taking his clothes off. And I started to pay close attention to what was happening with him. We started to cut all the tags out of his clothes. He could only wear pants that were elastic waist. He could not wear any of the things that are appropriate for children of his age. He was 3, and between the ages of 3 and 5, all the kids love to wear things that are silk screen, that maybe have Thomas the Train or Barney or all those beloved characters. And the way that those t-shirts and things are made, you can feel the texture on the outside of them as well as on the inside of the t-shirt. And when Timmy had a t-shirt like that, he would become obsessed with constantly touching it. So that started to make me realize that, you know, something had to be done to help him. And I realized it wasn't just his problem. It was probably more of a global problem. Unbeknownst to me at the time, there was a special education teacher in New York, his name is Jessica Raleigh, who was working with students that were autistic, and she came upon the same conclusion that I did. Her students were a little bit older and able to vocalize to her. My nephew was nonverbal, so he was not able to tell us what was happening. It was just through his behavior that we were noticing these issues. But Jessica's students were telling her that they didn't feel comfortable with their clothes on, and they were having problems finding things that didn't distract them while she was teaching them. So the two of us met, and even though we were coming from 2 different perspectives, she is an educator and I'm an aunt, we started SOFT in efforts to help children that are autistic and have sensory processing problems feel comfortable and look fashionable.
What a wonderful way to take your passion, your advocacy, and help others.
Thank you.
Beyond your family. Could you tell us a little bit about what sets that soft clothing line apart from others?
Yes, well, soft clothing is made specifically designed for children that are autistic and have sensory processing problem. We developed our clothing line after surveying over 5,000 parents. We're a research-driven company.
Wow. 5,000 parents?
5,000 parents.
How in the world did you get that feedback?
Well, we use social networking sites, and we're online a lot, and we went into autism forums, sensory processing forums, as well as our own personal feedback that we were requesting. And we would ask parents, what is it that works for your children? What doesn't work for your children? We gathered all that information, we put it together, we designed the clothing based on those things that they were telling us, and then we started manufacturing it. But the most important thing that we've done is that we test all of our clothing on sensory sensitive children. And we get their feedback from the parents in a very extensive survey list, and we tailor everything based on what their parents are telling us. So the clothing turns out to be exactly what the parents are telling us their children want.
Mm-hmm. Well, could you give us an example of
Yes. All of our clothes are made with BioSoft washed, with 100% bio-washed cotton and baby French terry. This is our long sleeve tee. We make all of our collars are a deeper, wider collar because we find that kids that have sensory problems are either trying to chew their collars or pulling at them, so we do a deeper collar. We have a tagless printed label so that children aren't
I think I have a photo of that.
feeling the tags and constantly pulling on the tags, which is a common problem. And all of our seams are flat lock sewn, which is something that you commonly find in underwear or swimwear. Most seams, if you feel on your blue jeans, are done with an overlock sewing machine, which is definitely, you can feel it. A flat lock seam is very soft and you don't really feel it. And instead of having a tie, for example, or button loops or pockets, we either digitally print those accessories on the clothing, or I'll show you on a pair of pants. These are our chinos. We made them to look actually like regular chinos, but they're made out of baby French terry. And as you can see, we embroidered belt loops on it. We embroidered the inseam, pockets, and on the back, buttons, because we find that buttons are particularly difficult for children. They could become either, obsessed with touching them, and they just have a hard time fastening them.
In everyday life, you wouldn't think about these little things that could be bothersome to a child who is hypersensitive or who may have autism. So that's wonderful that you were able to take the feedback from parents and just really study how children, how to make them most comfortable so that they can focus on learning and other things that might normally distract them. It's very creative.
Well, I think that the fact that I'm coming from a situation where I see and I'm living with my nephew's situation, and Jessica is working on a daily basis with her students, it's almost like you can't understand the situation unless you see it and unless you live it. So we both, even though we're coming from two different places, we both have the hands-on experience to tell us what we need to do.
It's wonderful. It looks like we have a caller waiting on the line. Caller, please go ahead. You're on the air.
Actually, my question was going to be regarding how you went about getting the feedback, which you've actually done a great job of already answering. So I guess that I would, be curious to know that once the product is released, do you have some sort of process or mechanism whereby you continue to gather feedback to refine it for subsequent releases?
Yes, we do. We constantly ask for feedback on anything that we send out. We ask you to please fill out a survey and let us know how it is, how you like it, if you don't like it, what you think we should change about it. We are constantly growing. As I said, we're a research-driven company, and we listen to everything, good or bad, that somebody has to say.
It's wonderful. Great question. Can you tell us a little bit more about what some of the parents that you've collected feedback from have shared about their experiences?
Yes, it's actually really beautiful. We get hundreds of emails and letters that are telling us that this is the first time their child has ever been able to go someplace where they're not wearing a pair of pajama pants, where they feel like they finally look appropriate, where they don't feel the stigma of wearing the same t-shirt over and over. We had one mother that wrote us a story. Her son is actually one of our models. He's just a beautiful boy, and all of our models, by the way, are sensory sensitive children. So if you see our catalogs, everybody that you see has
I think I have a photo.
Has tactile defensiveness, and
these adorable models right
here.
here.
Adorable models, and one of the moms wrote us a letter that said when she would go out with her family, that her one son was really experiencing a lot of tactile problems and was wearing the same thing over and over, and was really affecting his self-esteem, and he felt really uncomfortable at school, and now he feels wonderful about himself. He's dressed like a lot of his peers, and that was one of the things that we really wanted to do. We wanted to have a clothing line that was hip and cool, and made everybody.
I love that you say that, because people may think that if a child is autistic and is nonverbal, that they don't have, they have no desire to express themselves, or as much of a desire to express themselves in their clothing, or to want to be accepted like other children. And I love that you found a way to allow them to express themselves and to be trendy and to fit in through clothing.
I think it's so hard when you have anything about you in life that's a little bit different. Kids universally want to be just like everybody else at school, and you don't want to be standing out if you're wearing something different.
Right.
And we made basics so that you can just blend in. If everybody's wearing blue jeans, we have a pair of blue jeans now that are coming out. If everybody's wearing chinos, or everybody's wearing a t-shirt, now you have that, and you can be like everybody else and fit in.
I've noticed that on this social networking site that Soft created, you invite parents to share their comments and to share their stories and to share their troubles and to kind of create like a support group.
Exactly.
Also.
The clothing line, we're more than just a clothing line. We are a support group. We're a provider of information. We are a online community to help you, and for parents, for siblings, anybody that wants to write in and tell us about your successes or your failures or your problems that you're having. You're immediately connected all over the world with other parents, friends, loved ones who can comment and say, you know what, that happened to me too, try this. We recently had somebody that was talking to us about their child having a very hard time brushing their hair, and the mother was saying, I don't know what to do, and another mother wrote in from across the country saying, in England we have a certain type of a brush. If you can't find it in the United States, let me know, I'll tell you where to find it.
Why was she having trouble brushing her child's hair?
Because his head is so sensory sensitive that the bristles or the feel on his head were just bothering him. So he was going without brushing his hair.
So unfortunately with autism being so prevalent in our country, affecting 1 out of every 110 children, we should really be talking more about clothing and brushes and toys and just all aspects of life that we often take for granted, so that we can better serve our children and our families.
Exactly.
I saw that you have some recommended toys on your website too for sensory sensitive.
Well, actually, we're coming out with a toy.
Oh.
One of the things that I noticed through my travels with my nephew is that there was no toy that was really safe for him. Any toy that that I would buy maybe for my son or for another child, like a Beanie Baby, for example. My nephew Timmy is very orally motivated, puts everything in his mouth, and Beanie Babies and other plush toys are filled with beans and things like that, and he can chew through anything. My nephew could chew through leather. So anything he puts in his mouth is either going to be ripped up or dangerous for him. And Soft has a toy that's coming to the market soon that's going to be chew friendly, and the first toy that's made that a child could love. Every child needs something to love and bring with them to school if they're afraid and sleep with. And his name, the toy is Boris, the Prince of Wales. So coming soon.
That's great. And it looks like we have another caller on the line. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to ask, when you have parents who contact you about making special clothing, and then do you track how effective that clothing is for the certain parents over time?
Yeah, yes, we do. We keep in contact with our purchasers, and we invite them to constantly, give us feedback on how things are going. So yes, and I'm very thrilled to say that we have a lot of repeat buyers. So we know for right now on our basic line, which is all that we've released so far, that things are going, people seem to be very happy with what we have.
I think for a lot of viewers that are watching, and for people who start to I think the most important thing is that we all start to think more about how we can better serve our kids with autism and our adults with hypersensitive, challenges or challenges, because when you think about clothing, it's on you constantly, 24/7, and it's a form of expression, and it affects your self-confidence. And we really, I love that finally, there's an organization that has thought about, our children, has designed a product with our kids in mind. So that's wonderful. And I like that, that Soft has developed a network so that, there's a support system in place and people can share their stories and not feel so alone.
Right.
But know that there are others. So I understand that you're also part of Autism Speaks and that you do a lot of advocacy. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, yes, we donate a portion of our profits to not only Autism Speaks, but other disability other disability organizations, and Autism Speaks definitely is one of them, as well as sensory processing disorder sites and things like that. We're fundraisers and have been for all autism-related groups.
So if there's a mother out there, whether she has a child with autism or not, or another aunt, is there anything you'd like to share with them? If they see a child or they encounter a child with autism, is there any words of advice? What would you like to say to them?
Well, what I would like to say to anybody is that, you never know when you meet somebody or you see somebody at the grocery store and their child is having a meltdown and you think, oh, maybe that's a bad parent or maybe they're just not disciplined. But you really need to look past that. Maybe that child is on sensory overload and he can't stand the decibel of the sounds. Things that are normal to people that don't have sensory processing problems are extremely overinflated to people that do have sensory problems. So again, the lights in a grocery store could be painful to a child that has autism or sensory processing problems. The sounds are disturbing. The smells could be disturbing. It's all of the senses that we take for granted that are heightened to an extreme degree for these people. Not only children, but adults too. 1 in every 20 people is diagnosed with a sensory disorder.
Oh, I did not realize that.
Yes.
I know that 1 in 63 children in Illinois are diagnosed with some kind of developmental disability, but I didn't know that 1 in 20.
1 in 20 will have a sensory disorder, and it's really interesting. They're finding that it is a hereditary-based disorder, and gifted people, people that have ADHD, people that have Fragile X syndrome, and that group is more likely to have it. You can have it anyway, but they're finding that in the studies that
these groups have it.
Yes.
It looks like we have another caller on the air. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, I was listening to your show, and I was really surprised to hear that there was this sensory disorder. I have a 21-year-old son who in the last...
I'm sorry, could you speak up just a little bit?
Yes, I have a 21-year-old son, and I didn't know this disorder existed, and you were just mentioning that gifted kids get that. Well, he is gifted, but he never had any problems, not severe problems, until the last 2 years, and it's been really horrible. He has not been able to put on a shirt or pants, and I just wondered if your company makes adult
clothing.
We don't have adult clothing at this time, but it is definitely on our horizon. We want to be able to help as many people as we can, because we know that this is not just a problem that is for children. This is a huge global problem for adults and children, and we are hoping that we will be able to help as many people as possible. So, yes, I hope that I'm going to be able to help your son.
And the more we talk about it and the more we converse about it, the more we'll draw attention to these issues and come up with solutions.
Yes.
So you're not the only one working on solving the problems, but we're really happy that you're one of the leaders solving the problems.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, is there? Can you tell us a little bit about how SOFT was conceived? I think we kind of got about the what is her name? Jessica.
Jessica,
Yeah.
my partner.
Yeah.
She's an amazing, talented, brilliant girl. Again, I was working on trying to put together a clothing line for my nephew, and I had no fashion experience. I come from a real estate development business, and I was searching for somebody to produce the clothing for me. And through one of my nephew's therapists, she knew that I was trying to start the clothing line, and she sent me a link that said SOFT and said, "Congratulations, you started your clothing line." And I looked at the link, and I looked at the website, and I got hysterically crying, and I thought, oh my gosh. I had sent my ideas and my samples to a venture capital firm in New York that had a clothing link to it. And I thought, oh my God, they stole my idea. They started the business.
Oh my goodness.
They took everything that I wanted to do, and they have this woman that they're saying is a teacher as their background, as their ringer. So I did some investigation. I actually hired an attorney to help me, and he found that it was Jessica. He put me in touch with her. She's from New York. She flew into Chicago. We met, and we had lunch, and we clicked, and we both felt that our meeting was fate. And I really do. Everything was aligned for us. We were working on the same goal at the same time, and I believe that there's a reason that we came together, and it was for this.
That's a wonderful story. It's a beautiful, beautiful story.
And it's the truth. She's an amazing, beautiful person.
Who designed this piece? I love that piece.
I think it was a collaboration of both of ours. We both, Jessica's a fashionista, straight out of New York, on top of all of the great designers and everything. But we have talked about things that we would like to see, and I think believe that I think that this was kind of something that we both
with the necktie.
With the necktie. This was actually taken. This is a classic tie print put on with digital printing.
Oh, it's great. Well, I love that, we're starting to look at children with autism as normal children, as, everyday children that have the same desires and hopes and goals and just different kinds of abilities as regular children. So I love that, we were able to bring that to the table and to the discussion today.
And I thank you so much for inviting us and giving us this forum.
Of course, of course. If you couldn't get your question on tonight at Little City TV, please feel free to email us at info@littlecity.org. or visit our website at www.littlecity.org/autism. So that's littlecity.org/autism. And if you couldn't get your question again to Ms. Suzy Kogen Friedman, just email us at info@littlecity.org, and we'll make sure she gets that inquiry right away. Or you can call us at 847